All right, so we are on to the quadratic formula, and this is an optional video, but I think it's really valuable if you or when you are looking at proofs, which you're going to be looking at next year and the year after in high school. And when we're looking at how to derive the quadratic formula, it means how we know that it's always true, how we know it works, okay, and kind of how it was first discovered. All right, so we have our quadratic equation, our standard quadratic equation, and it is important to note that a cannot equal 0. Okay, sometimes I forget about that or don't worry about it because if a equals 0, it's not really a quadratic equation. All right, but it is good to remember a can equal 0. Okay, and from here, to find our quadratic formula, we're really just going to be following our steps for completing the square. Okay, just like with completing the square, we got to take care of the coefficient, right? We got to take care of our a first, so we divide that away. Don't have to worry about it on 0. Cancel those out. We're left with x squared plus b over a x plus c over a, and that is equal to 0. And then we're going to subtract c over a, subtract c over a, so we can make room for our third term to complete the square. So we've got x squared plus b over a times x plus nothing is equal to negative c over a. And I'm actually going to move that over so I have room as well. Minus c over a. Okay, so I need to find my third term to complete the square. So remember that is half of this term, half of my second term squared. And don't be confused by the fact that b is up here. It is this whole thing, okay? So it's going to be my b over a, and this would usually be divided by 2, so my 2 is going to go right here, b over 2a squared. Excuse me. So b over 2a squared, and I'm just going to put that straight in. Not going to mess with it, not going to try and simplify it or evaluate it at this point, although we will get to that in a little bit. Okay, so I've completed the square. I've got everything on my other side of the equation. Now I know I've got the square completed, so I'm going to go into my binomial factor, which is x plus b over, and it's just b over a, okay, and then that's squared, okay, and then we have equals to b over 2a squared minus c over a. Okay, and that's looking good. This is pretty clean. We are ready with that. The only problem is this stuff here. Oh, I forgot my 2 over 2a, sorry, is this stuff over here. Okay, so I've got to try and clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to start by doing that square. Okay, so b squared over 2a squared is going to be 4a squared, right, minus c over a. Okay, so it doesn't look simplified, but I don't have the parentheses there, so I don't have that to worry about. But now, when I've got fractions, what I'm looking for, I want to try and combine these, which means I'm trying to get a common denominator. All right, the common denominator is going to be 4a squared. So what do I have to multiply this by to make the denominator 4a squared? Well, I have to multiply it by 4a over 4a. Okay, and that'll get me b squared over 4a squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Okay, and then I can combine those into b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Okay, bring down the rest of my equation, x plus b over 2a squared is equal to b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. So it looks way messier than I started with, right? But we're not quite there yet. So let's go ahead and go through our steps just like we normally do. We would take the square root of both sides. Okay, square root of this is easy. It's just going to be x plus b over 2a. Now the square root of that is going to be pretty challenging. But remember, just like with any fraction, we can evaluate the numerator and the denominator separately. Now we're not going to be able to get the square root of b squared minus 4ac, so we're kind of going to leave that. Okay, but we're going to have plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over what we can evaluate, right? Because 4 is a perfect square and a squared is a perfect square. So we can square root of that to get 2a. Okay, and now we're looking a little bit better. And then the last part is we want to get x by itself, because that's kind of the whole point, right? Is to isolate x. So we're going to subtract b over 2a. We're going to subtract b over 2a, and we're going to be left with x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that is our quadratic formula. The good thing about that is we can plug our values in, okay, and evaluate it and get x every time and get our two values, sometimes 2, sometimes 1, sometimes none, but we'll find our zeros, find our solutions for x.